I'm still on my Timex. He's a Rolex. I'm a Timex. Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn.
Hey, Paul, we're having fun. Every January, we put together a list of the top 60 travel predictions. Last week, we went through the first 15. This week, we're going through the second 15. I used to do 75 of these, but I thought I needed to narrow them down because I couldn't fit them all in January. And we didn't want to have this program last for 2 hours, 3 hours, okay? So we're having fun. I get to predict these every year, and I usually get over 70% of them right. You know, and I was looking through last year's. I did dang good, Paul. I think there were only about a dozen that
Nebraska didn't win the national championship.
Or the Big Ten championship for sure. That one's kind of an automatic. So we come up with great things that I think are gonna happen. Many of them are already kind of happening. More of a precursor of some of the things we see on the horizon. So with that, we're going to start. This is sponsored by Executive Travel. We've been in business now for how many years?
40 years.
40 years. Man, hard to believe. Been doing the Weekly Traveler. It goes out every Tuesday at 10:30 to about 100,000 emails. You can subscribe at executivetravel.com. And, of course, our easy-to-remember phone number, 402-435-8888. And, of course, you find us on the web at executivetravel.com, and that's where you find the YouTube channel, too.
Yep, YouTube. Just spell out Executive Travel, and you can get 100 and some plus podcasts that we've got out there.
You know, I go through some of those, and they're pretty darn good.
Some of them are good to continue to watch. You know, the ones on international, the things to make sure you do before you take an international trip. Good reminders.
The fount of all wisdom on the travel industry right here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, number 16 on this week's list of the Weekly Travel Alert of the top travel predictions for 2026 reads, Airlines will quietly rebrand fees instead of removing them. Paul, they're trying to come up with softer names, even though it means the same amount of money. And so seat selection fees become comfort options. Okay, give me a break. They're seat assignments. You know, Southwest is joining on everybody else this year, and they're coming in with seat selection costs. So the old Southwest is no longer. It's the new Southwest, and that's more expensive. And they're coming up with these types of comfort options. You're going to see change penalties morph into flexibility enhancements, right? You're more flexible. They don't call it a change fee. They call it a flexibility fee. So all these airlines, the bottom line is there's lots of fees you can pay.
How can they get more money out of it?
You know, I figured the other day if Frontier gave me a free airline ticket and I checked on luggage, took a seat assignment, checked on bags, it would cost me $600 for that free ticket round trip. What a deal. Frontier. All right. Number 17 on this week's edition of the Weekly Traveler reads, early boarding becomes meaningless. Paul, now, have you noticed all the people that have Category 1 boarding? You've got the military, the premium seats, the credit cards, special circumstances. By the time you get through seating 1, half the plane's already on there. Yeah. I mean, used to be you do that so you could get overhead space, right?
And that's really the primary benefit I see still with status is, you know, if you get up to that higher level of status, you can get on after those global services and after the military and families with children 2 and under, which then you typically are still going to have plenty of space there near your seat. But yeah, no, that's the values have definitely diminished.
Even if you buy first class seats, you might be the third or fourth group to enter the airplane. So even buying first class doesn't always get you all that overhead bins. Number 18 on this week's edition of the Weekly Traveler, which is the top 60 predictions of the travel industry for 2026. Today we're only going through 16 through 30. And it reads, hotel loyalty programs lose emotional loyalty. They'll still collect those hotel points, and they'll get their free breakfast, they'll get their late checkouts, but that's not really going to weigh that strongly, I don't think, on people. They want location. They want a good, clean bed, right? And they want easy.
Well, and even you've been Marriott, and prior to that, you were Starwood before Marriott bought Starwood.
Platinum,
And so you're, I think, lifetime
Now
platinum.
I'm titanium.
But now, sorry, titanium.
What's ahead of titanium?
I don't know. I'm still back.
Universe
I'm still
or
back
something.
in that gold level, so I'm a long way behind. But you've transitioned, and now you're doing more Hilton.
Hilton, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and
even the Hyatts, I like the Hyatts a lot better because now I can take most of my points, which are on Amex or Chase credit cards, and I can move them almost
And I
anywhere.
think that's where the credit card programs are now starting to overpower the vendor programs.
Absolutely. I think you're seeing that, and that's very good. Number 19 on this week's list of the top 60 travel predictions for 2026 reads, EV backlash hits rental cars. Of course, electric vehicles, the EVs. I don't think people are against them, but they don't really want to rent them because where do you find a charging station?
There's a purpose and there is a hassle factor.
Yeah.
I've got both an EV and a gas-powered vehicle, and if I'm going to do a long trip, I'm going to take the gas-powered vehicle, and if I'm going to just toot around town, then I'll take the EV because I don't have to worry about the whole charging aspect. And I think that's what we've seen over really the last 5 years. As you know, at one point Hertz put a whole lot of effort into getting EVs into their fleet, and then when COVID hit and all of a sudden they needed to get some cash, that was the first thing they were getting rid of.
Well, and they kind of put the tail between their legs and said they sold off many of their EVs. They're trying to be the green company in the car rental, and what they found is their customers weren't
You got to
ready
do
for
what the
them.
consumer wants.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't do it because that's what you feel your initiative is.
All
the
right.
consumers who speaks there.
You bet. Number 20 on this week's list reads, business travelers become free agents and stop chasing elite status. We've talked about this. I've been a United Airlines 1K for many years. And now I'm looking at better schedules, cheaper schedules for upgrades and business class on other airlines. And I'm thinking, is it worth all this hassle and cost? It costs, I think you have to spend $28,000 on United this year to maintain your 1K status. That's a lot of tickets.
It's a lot of tickets, and what you'll tend to find is, a lot of times, especially if you're gonna shoot for business or first class, there may be other vendors that, one, they'll have better routing and better timing, but two, they may be at a 30% discount on that business class. So I think you end up paying a premium, and I think that's what the airlines have counted on, is these guys will pay a premium to be on us, even if it's coach trying to upgrade to business. Whereas at the end of the day, you can take more flights, spend less, or pay and get that guaranteed business class ticket and end up better off.
All right, number 21, Europe extends tourist taxes without apology. Paul, we saw this several years ago where several communities started taxing people, and as over-tourism kind of took over some cities, they obviously justify that, saying this will keep people away. Well, it hasn't kept anybody away.
No.
It's just generated millions of dollars for these cities. And I think that's what upsets people is they're saying, hey, if you charge me for it, make the experience better.
Exactly.
And they're not doing that. So
we talked about that Trevi Fountain. They just announced that in Rome.
€2.
Yeah. But that was my whole question. I was there in November, and you couldn't walk around that place.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna charge me now, is that experience gonna be better? Can I go get a picture in front of the fountain without 500 people between me and the fountain?
Now, do you throw that coin over your right shoulder or left shoulder with your right hand? I think it's your right hand over your left shoulder. Do you know?
I don't know.
All right.
I couldn't get close enough to even throw it that far.
It's €2. So with that, number 22 reads, travel planning becomes a data sport. Savvy travelers are basically now looking at weather, crowd levels, pricing curves, and social media saturation. So they're looking at this and saying, instead of where should we go, it's more of is a destination worth it in that month?
Well, I get the return that I'm looking for, the experience that I'm looking for.
Experience, that's the key. I think it's experience. And so we've seen that in Europe a lot, whereas they're no longer going as much in July and August, but they're going in the shoulder seasons, April, May, June, September, October. So it's changing a lot.
Changing a lot, yeah.
Number 23 on this week's edition of the Weekly Traveler. This is the number 16 through 30 travel predictions. We have 60, and for 4 weeks we'll have these in a row during the month of January. If you haven't seen the first 1 through 15, you'll want to go back on YouTube and check it out.
Yep, check out Executive Travel on YouTube, and you can see last week's edition.
All right, number 23 on this week's predictions, travel industry predictions for 2026 reads, airports become more retail malls than transportation hubs. Paul, I really like this.
I actually do. I'm not a shopper, but when you go to a major international airport, the shopping that's available, it's the highest end, and they do the amazing retailing. It's brands that we can't get here in Nebraska. You know, and not that you can buy. It's the same situation in an airport as it is here. If you want to go buy a Rolex, they're not going to have one you can actually wear out of there. But you can at least go see things that you can't see. And I'm amazed at the number of people that you see carrying bags where they've actually purchased the high-end products.
Duty free, Paul, duty free. Now, I was just in Rome last week. I saw a Rolex shop in the airport going out.
Been in that one.
Can you buy a Rolex?
No, you can't. You can't.
You just look?
Yeah.
There's so much in demand, you can't buy them.
Yeah, you got to pay a premium for those.
Oh, you're right Mr. Rolex, Mr. Hottie Toddy. I'm still on my Timex. He's a Rolex. I'm a Timex. Okay, hey, number 24 on this week's predictions for 2026 in the travel industry. Same-day flight changes get harder, not easier. Paul, just planes are full. And it's hard to change, especially when they're full. As we go into summer, you're going to see that more and more and more. And, you know, we've been telling people, if you take one of these low-cost carriers and you have a weather event, you think about changing, good luck, Buster. It might be 5 days before you can get on another flight.
Well, and that even happened here just this last couple of weeks, the whole issue that was down in Venezuela. The U.S. event, I guess. I had some friends that were down in the Virgin Islands. One of their friends has a beautiful property, and they had 60 of them down there for Christmas and New Year's, and they were supposed to travel home the day that event happened. So the airspace all got shut down for a day, just one day. They didn't know, they thought it was going to be shut down longer, but just that one day. Then they weren't able to get back for 6 days after that.
Perfect example.
All of the flights were full.
Yeah, perfect example. All right, number 25 on this week's top predictions for 2026 for the travel industry reads, the hidden city ticketing crackdown intensifies. Now, Paul, 30 years ago, we used to use a lot hidden cities where we would buy a ticket from, let's say, Omaha to Phoenix. It was real cheap. And would go through Denver, and Denver at that time was expensive, and they just jump off in Denver. Yep. Well, boy, you don't want to do that today because all this AI and the technology they have, they can pretty well scout that and find it. And when they find you're double booked or you have hidden cities, they're going to cancel probably both of those.
Yeah, they'll cancel them on you.
Yeah, so you don't want to play games anymore with ticketing and fancy ticketing ideas that we did 30 and 40 years ago. See, we're progressing here, Paul. I don't know if it's better or not.
It's not for the better.
Hey, here's a cool thing. Number 26, luxury trains gain momentum globally. Paul, we're seeing some really cool luxury trains throughout Europe. And that just has this romantic feel about it, kind of a luxury romantic feel. And I like to travel on trains in Europe. They're on time usually, they're quality, they're clean, and that's how people are. You can go from the center of one town to the center of another, not have to hassle with the Rome traffic,
getting down
or the Paris traffic or any of that stuff. So I sense that's going to be a really hot topic. Unfortunately, in the U.S., we've got Amtrak, and they're about 40 years behind Europe. they are getting better. They've gotten some new product on the East Coast, and I think that new product will come out through the Midwest into California.
Do the coast to coast. Yeah, this is one where I think, especially those of us that aren't on the coast, there's a lack of comfort. I've done some train in Europe, but I haven't done anything out of Rome. We've done Munich to Salzburg and back and forth there and some other things. And so, but this is one of those where, I think we've got to, as Midwesterners, get out there and explore. And this is going to be a big part of what that's going to look like. Because as we've talked about before, especially in Europe with the green initiatives, they're getting rid of some of these short haul flights. So train is going to be the only option, which I think is probably what's driving this, is that, you can't get that business class ticket on that 1 hour flight anymore. So train is going to be the only option to get from point A to point B. And they want that traveler that's expecting that next level experience to be able to get that on the train.
When you hear the term Orient Express, you think of the ultimate luxury, 6-star luxury around the world. I think you're going to see more and more of that. Number 27, AI written reviews are killing star ratings. Guys, star ratings are really on the way out because you can't trust them. Now you can get AI to write reviews on every hotel, everything you want. And if you're a hotel owner, you can say, write me 500 reviews, tell them about all the positive things in my hotel, give me 4 and 5-star ratings, and boom, away that AI will go. Of course, the places, the booking.com, the expedia.com, the hotels.com, all those are trying to preempt that.
They gotta have a way to verify the user before they can publish that. So hopefully they can get that all lined up.
But now people are relying more on real people reviews, people they know, people they do in social media and other things. And
I think brands are going to become. Really, it's going to come down to a brand standard. Right. So a Marriott's at this level, a Westin's at this level. And so those brands are really going to have to make sure they're holding each property to the standards that are expected in order to maintain people being able to be confident in what they're going to receive.
Well, and the other thing is not all of even personal ratings are very good. If you get a first-time 19-year-old traveler, they may go to a 3-star hotel and say, this is the best thing they've ever stayed at. Well, they've never stayed at anything, okay?
If you haven't stayed at a Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah, why don't you stay? Compare me to that Ritz-Carlton or something like that. So anyway, I think you're going to have to take a very cautious view at reviews in 2026 and perhaps dig deeper into it. A lot of people tell me now they look at the bad reviews.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I tend to do when I'm looking at any product online is go and look at what the bad reviews are. And is it a one-off, something malfunctioned, that's a one-off type deal versus, is this the standard? That should be the expectation for whatever it is that I'm looking at.
All right, number 28 out of the 30 travel predictions for 2026 we have for this week reads, leisure travel stabilizes instead of explodes. Paul, during the post-pandemic, we had a combination of leisure travel and business travel, bleisure travel, and the boundaries kind of faded. And now I sense bleisure isn't going to be as strong or as long, but will still be there. You're still going to, if you're in a city on a Friday for a meeting, you might stay.
I've got a couple of those coming up here in the next quarter where I've got work down in Clearwater, Florida next month, and it's. Are
you sure that's work?
I think we have 120 people we're hosting down there, so there's work tied to that.
Oh, sure, okay.
But it is on a beach.
I believe you. I believe you.
I am taking dress pants.
Okay. Well, anyway, number 29 in this week's edition of the Weekly Traveler reads, hotels experiment with guaranteed quiet floors.
Please.
Yeah, people don't want the hustle and bustle of kids and other things and on certain floors, and they want people to have their quiet.
I can't remember where we were. We were in just Omaha. Did a little weekend getaway, and the hotel there was a soccer tournament in town.
Oh, no.
And so there were 10-year-old boys all over the place, kicking soccer balls up and down the hallway, running around, coming from the pool back to their rooms. Sure. So all the floors are soaked. And it's just like, all I'm here to do is get a night's rest.
Yeah. I think hotels sometimes forget people want sleep
Yeah.
at their hotel. Give me a comfortable bed, a dark room.
Yeah.
I don't even turn on the TV anymore. I just
don't
want
either.
rest.
Yeah.
And I guess I go onto my phone and read that a lot. So number 30 on this week's, this is the last for this week. Number 30 out of 60, we're going to present the next 15 and then the next 15 in the next 2 weeks. Travel burnout becomes real and planned around. Travel burnout is no longer theoretical. It's being actively managed, Paul, and people are saying, I'm just exhausted. And that exhaustion sometimes is related to that travel.
Yeah.
And so you can't do more. You kind of got to plan some breathing room around your travel process.
And I think some of that comes to, why some people do the bleisure is, if you're going somewhere and you've got 2 days of meetings, but you're going to a destination where stay and enjoy so you can get some of that balance instead of the rush. I know we've got just this week we're leaving and we will land in Europe on Monday and we fly back out Wednesday. I don't know where I don't know where my body's going to be and my mind's going to be next Thursday and Friday when we're back in town. But I'm getting old enough that I know I'm not going to be 100% for a couple of days.
Yeah, I call it's the year to slow down and cozy up. And I sense that people are going to want to slow down in everything they do just a little bit because the world's traveling around them so fast.
And the other thing that we've talked about a little bit, especially just amongst what we do and how we can do it, is you can do that and you can still accomplish almost as much by working virtual.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do, we talked about the trip that we've got coming up this week. And, if we weren't trying to just get in and out and that was on purpose, it'd be one thing to stay and enjoy and explore where we're going to be and still get work done.
Yeah.
And not push our bodies in the manner that we're going to. But unfortunately, that's just not how we're operating.
I know you and I, when we go to Italy, oftentimes we'll explore the countryside till about 3 p.m., which is
with 8 o'clock here.
Yeah. Then work till midnight, and you got a full day in of travel and a full day in of work.
Yeah.
So, hey, with that, thanks for joining us on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. My name is Steve Glenn.
And I'm Paul Glenn. Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedback on topics that would be of interest for future episodes. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.